Welcome to the Eight Well podcast, where we discuss our holistic approach to wellness. In our last episode, we defined wellness and talked about our approach to the 8 dimensions of wellness.
Yeah, in today's episodes, we're going to talk about our individual approach to wellness and how hopefully you guys can start to gain some influence off of what we do and start to formulate a plan for yourself, right? We're going to kind of dive into some approaches we have in life, some things we might be great at, might be lacking, and everything in between.
Right, we talked about it in the beginning of our first episode, right? Just kind of thinking about what is wellness, right? Defined it, right? I think I even brought up the Global Wellness Institute, right, defines wellness as the active pursuit of lifestyle choices that will lead you to holistic health. How do you feel kind of about how do you define wellness kind of in your life or your kind of general definition of wellness?
Yeah, I think I defined wellness just in generality as just an ever-evolving sense of like self-awareness and outside awareness too. Right, but with that awareness comes the constant evaluation of seeing the placement of how everything interacts with everything else in my life, right? Why am I feeling this way off of something? Why am I craving this? Can I change this to be better, right? Why am I doing this over doing that, right? And implementing the goods versus the bads. Not that everything is so good or bad, but kind of figuring out that for myself and always trying to be better in all of those cases, right? Whether it's a specific aspect of wellness that I'm trying to focus on, like my finances, or in the gym exactly, right? Or just in a general sense, figuring out how they all relate to each other. That's kind of how I approach it. It's kind of an ever-evolving, changing daily thing for myself. Making sure I hit those points, kind of not in a specific checklist, but something kind of along that means in my head that I've kind of developed throughout my whole life, I think.
Yeah, I think that's going to be good, right? Because I think that our conversation, right, in this episode kind of talks about, right, how people define that for themselves, and then also how you even change those things, right? So you're talking about defining things that are good or defining things that are bad, and how they're kind of affecting you in your life. So it's also kind of, okay, what is my first strategy, right, here within wellness? I think 100%. That's kind of, as we define it as this activity and these choices that you're making in your life, right? I think that it's like, okay, how do we take a step back and kind of talk about that wellness is actually these activities that you're doing in your life as opposed to, right, just one aspect of wellness, right? So it's not just your meditation, it's not just your yoga practice, it's not just your spa day, right? But it actually is all these encompassing activities that kind of create an entire plan for you.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. I think like thinking back, right, there might be some specific things for every individual, right? Whether it can surface in an unhealthy way initially maybe because you don't know how to handle certain things, or can project into a healthier way as you go on in your life, right? Certain people have certain disorders and things like that, and stresses can come on and can cause different things to happen in the body, whether it's physical or, right, cancer can be proliferated at a higher rate because your body is in a much more stressed environment. As opposed to, right, living stress-free and then living on kind of that better half of the side of your life where everything's kind of in touch with itself and you're balanced. So I think one thing I was going to ask you is, are there any kind of things you can think of growing up? This is more of a personal question from me to you, like where you kind of started to make those conscious changes for yourself, or you were like, wow, like working out something that I really love, or a couple of points that you were like, okay, eating healthy is something that I value, or something like that, right? On that kind of physical sense of wellness.
Yeah, definitely. It was always physical for me first, right? Because I was an athlete, right? So it was you needed to be in good physical shape, and my coaches kind of always told you like bigger, faster, stronger, right? So it was always this thought of eating well enough to feed the body. Probably wasn't the best eating, right, in the beginning, but it was always built around activity and being in the gym and working out. So we always pushed kind of this physical wellness, right? But then it was all-encompassing, right, as you kind of got older and you had other stressors in your life. So as you started to realize these other stressors, you realized it wasn't purely just the gym that's affecting you, or just the gym that could affect your wellness, right? There's these other stressors, be it, right, if you're in high school, be it, right, some test, be it every girl that you're trying to talk to, or whatever it is, every situation that you're in, they're all kind of affecting your life, and kind of realizing that these things are happening, right, is kind of like the penultimate, right, point in your life where you're saying, like, right, this is real. All these things kind of are affecting me at the same time. But definitely for me, it was all physical, kind of the start, and that realization could have happened early, right? Kind of in that high school front, but definitely happened for me little later on, right? Probably in my 20s or so, where it was really saying, oh, I can be the one to kind of dictate, right, my health and well-being, or my feelings in this world, right? Kind of taking ownership, taking accountability, right, for your own wellness.
It's the closest thing that
Creating
you
this
could
plan.
like easily control and adapt for yourself in that
sure.
sense, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I like this kind of idea with wellness as being kind of just purely like activity based, right? So it's active in nature, right? It's not a state, right? So people, I feel like there's this conversation of wellness almost being, is it health, right? It almost becomes like synonymous
It's
with
like
these things,
achieving
like
a
health.
certain, like you need to be in the top 10% of your healthiness,
Exactly.
kind of, or
Yeah.
otherwise you're not well.
Yeah.
In that sense. Yeah.
But it's like it's not like these states, right?
Yeah.
It's ever changing, right? It's action the entire time. So it's what you're doing from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, right? So it's how can we consistently kind of push out that message, right? About you having a plan in place in order to achieve this state of optimal well-being.
Yeah.
Right? It can't just be, I want to be healthy. It's got to be kind of the things. I think we talk about this a lot.
100%.
Right? It's just like processes that are in your life, right? That you build in order to become this person that is healthy. Like that's wellness, right? What am I putting in place in order to make myself be a healthy person, right? That's my wellness, right? So be it for me, right? And I think that we kind of wanted to talk about that, right? Is also, what do I do? What do I have to do for me, right? So I guess you go first. Like, what do you do for you, kind of like to be healthy, right?
For me, I think I make sure that, number one, I feel like I've focused a lot or run the best on, sounds kind of crappy to say, but like focusing on like when I have control of a lot of stuff. It could be toxic, right? But I feel like I've tried to make it as constructive as possible. Like kind of playing tricks on myself of like, granted, right, needing to get really good sleep. If I wake up the next day, I found that I'll almost be a little bit more irritated, and I've learned to kind of push back a little bit, but like I want to hit those dots for myself, right, and hit those points for myself every day, kind of in a self-strict way, right, like making sure I'm drinking enough, not having caffeine past a certain time, because I've seen how it affects me, right, knowing, right, when you go to bed that night before, and this is probably everybody, almost every client I've ever worked with, everyone I've ever talked to, right, going to bed, you have your phone, you have 10 different distractions of things that you could do, right, just put it down and go to sleep, and knowing that I'll get those 8 really, really good hours in, as opposed to staying up for an extra hour and a half, going to bed a half hour after that, and then I end up feeling maybe, like 50% more drained the next day. I'm like, I know that my lifting is going to suffer. I know that my interactions could suffer because I might be a little bit quicker to just feel a little bit more stressed or something like that, right? So I think for me, it's lining up certain points like that, drinking enough water, sleeping, right, adequately, making sure I don't, right, specifically with sleep, hitting certain points for myself, like not so much putting the phone away, that's probably crappy, but I'm still doing some work, or I have some last minute thoughts at the end of the day I'm getting in, but making sure the TV is off, right? I'm not really a big TV watcher. I actually do some breath work every night before I go to bed to make sure I hit that point. I feel like that just makes me feel like I'm setting myself up to sleep well. And then that rolls into the next day, whereas like I feel like I'm getting up, right? I'm checking the boxes, maybe I'm getting myself a little bit hyped into the drive to the gym or wherever I have to be for that day, right? I feel like these processes with that, getting in and just kind of learning how to walk into a place and just brush everything off, because I was kind of an anxious, really shy young kid. So for me to kind of talk in front of people or just get every day, right?
In front of a camera?
Yeah, in front of a camera. Get up every day and make that happen for myself, especially coaching people on my feet. Granted, it's my passion. It's the area, right, that I've built. I can control it for the most part. But for me, I was always anxious, right? Going to class, doing certain things, being in front of people half the time. And I learned that I can just kind of sway my perspective and put that kind of introverted, quiet TJ to the side until I can start to live on those sides. And that's just like a big mental game of like, literally, I just don't feel like talking to some people during the day, right? Not some people, but like to people in general. I feel like just chilling. Maybe I might feel a little overtired or drained because I've been in front of people so much, right? And I might need a little bit extra rest, but it's saying, no, let's live on that other side. It's a lot of self-talk, I think, on the mental aspect of it. And I feel like my confidence and me building myself up in physicality through lifting, right, through, I used to be all just like you, an athlete, playing baseball was who I was. And that's all I knew, all I did kind of. Outside of that, it's not like I was doing crazy like that much on the outside of that. So taking that, right, now I'm not a baseball player anymore. How do I live my life constructively and line these things up and put things in place for me to like strive for something every day, push myself every day, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally push myself every day. Be a better person, right? And trying, and it's difficult. Sometimes I come home and I'm drained and I might just be completely drained or be completely quiet, right? And it's fighting through that if I'm around my girlfriend, right, and Victoria, right, around her, to give her kind of the energy she needs too, right? And that's kind of just the constant pursuit of making sure that mentally it's just the self-talk of you could do it, like you're good. Why do you have to act this way? Why do you have to feel stressed right now? Why do you have to feel so tired and let that get to you right now?
Yeah.
Just live, just be in the moment as much as possible, right? Just live and kind of make sure that you're always being there for what's in front of you for the most part, rather than thinking so far ahead or thinking about the long day you had or, you know, getting stressed about this or that. And I very long, rambly answer because there's a lot of stuff coming to my head right now.
Yeah, wellness is broad. Right?
Wellness is very broad, right? But making sure that
while you're there, right?
Yeah.
Like while we're rambling about you,
Yeah.
like I feel like what I've kind of taken from you, and like
Yep.
not even like on my own, like sometimes like for my own,
Yeah,
right, to
100%.
kind of- but like what I've seen from you, right, is that like you will, for the sake of your own wellness, say no to things,
Yep.
right? Socially, you're like I don't give a
Yeah,
fuck, I'm
yeah,
not going,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you'll go home. Right, it's like I don't need to drink. Like, right, you won't have a drink
Yeah.
if we're out somewhere, or you'll kind of. So you've been able to kind of say, no, I don't care about social pressure, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'll just cut that off. Like I feel like that's like where I'll find myself like, I'll have another drink, like
Gotcha.
I'll go out for a little bit, but I know that how it's gonna affect me. I'm completely aware of like what right
Totally.
my own 32-year-old mortality, right? I know I can't be like doing the things I was
Yeah.
doing at 22. So it's not anything like that. But like I know, like I've seen you kind of say, like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that you're better off for it, right? The next day.
Yeah,
right?
I remember you even saying, sorry to cut you off, but I remember even saying that, like, once we opened this business, I guess we were just exchanging more, we learned about each other like that, and you were like, I don't know why I just stayed up and watched the basketball game last night. I could have just gone to bed, like, something like that. And it's like, everyone does that. That's so relatable, right? It's a stupid basketball game. And maybe you'll enjoy it, right? And it's like outweighing those costs and stuff of how you're going to feel versus what you're doing in the moment, right? So it's a constant evaluation.
Yeah.
But sorry, if you had anything else to say.
No,
continue.
for sure.
Yeah,
So like, no, just from that, right? Like
Yeah.
I've seen that, appreciate that of you. I think that's not what a lot of people do, right?
Appreciate that, yeah.
It's hard. It's hard for people to do
Yeah.
because that social pressure is usually what kind of takes over. But it's just knowing yourself, knowing what your wellness plan is, right? And knowing how you're optimized, right? From a wellness standpoint and from just like an achievement standpoint.
Yeah.
Right. So like I've taken that, right? So be it because of my Whoop or because of you, I go to bed earlier, right? Like I know that I need better sleep, and right, you prioritize those things. So,
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that. Because that's also, right, that being, I remember it was Friday night in like 6th grade, and my friends were like, we're all hanging out. I literally said, no, I'm good.
Did they invite
and Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did invite me. Maybe they did. All right, and we're done here. But my mom was like, hey, like, I think they prank called my house because they were like joking, like, oh, TJ's doing homework on a Friday night, whatever, or the 6th grade kids. And my mom was like, oh my God, like your friends, like I'm worried your friends they're hanging out. Why aren't you hanging out with them? I'm like, I'm good. I'm just like gonna chill tonight. I'm all right. And like, it was kind of like, right, putting those things, it's like kind of figure out naturally who you are. But at the same time, that's not necessarily a great thing, right? It's also been an insecurity of mine of like, I feel like I'm introverted sometimes, right? If it's not so much my created environment, right? That's definitely an insecurity of like, well, maybe I could be better socially. Maybe I could go and do more things and
But
push
now
myself
then you
more.
know that needs to be part of your plan.
100%.
Right? You have to put kind of action in place in order for you to be better there.
Yeah.
Right? Because it probably is easy for you to just push that away.
100%.
Right? But knowing that needs to be part of your optimal plan. It's like, okay, how do I work that back in?
Yeah.
Right?
The last thing I'm going to say about that is I think I've found out how to put things in perspective on the daily for myself, and it's ever evolving and improving. It's not even nearly, right? I'm not nearly the best version of myself, but, you know, I try to be without putting pressure on myself, but making that happen where it kind of matters in certain instances of like being social as hell and sarcasm, joking, this, that, the third, giving someone that energy transfer in the gym, in the class, because it's a product, right, that I'm offering and stuff like that pushes me to get there. And that's opened up a lot more of being way more personable for business, for my pursuit of everything I'm doing in this life socially, for building kind of a brand. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's been a whole learning process on that side of challenging myself every day. And just saying, screw it, just go for it, screw it, just do it, just, you know, right? Kind of just move, make the move, open the next door, keep doing that. And that's something that I definitely would not have done when I was like a younger kid, even in college, I would say too. It was just something that wasn't there. It was like, go about my day, we're good, we're comfortable, hit the gym, that'll be my challenge for the day, but after that, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like
that's a good...
It's been...
No, that's a good like kind of transition and a good point, because I feel like, right, as we're kind of talking about how wellness is kind of activity based, but it's also you got to kind of check in for yourself, right? So how do I know where my holes are, right, or where my needs are if I haven't kind of checked the boat, right? So if I don't know that I have holes, you sink. So it's like, how do I kind of have these check-in points, be it monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever it is, to say, oh, well, I was doing well financially in the beginning of the year. I got to make sure I'm still, right, that's still accounted for kind of 6 months down the road, right? So the same from every other aspect, right? So physically, right, am I in the gym, right? Mentally, am I taking time for myself to understand what issues are kind of boiling up in me? So it's, right, sitting down, checking in, and then you kind of can create a new activity plan or a new wellness plan based on that, right? So, okay, in January, I was kind of going through these things, but I'm past those things now, right? In June, I have a new wellness plan in order to get me kind of to that next level.
Yep. Yeah. I was going to say, right, we looped into kind of my side. What do you think is the thing that you hit best with wellness in that dimensional wellness like circle? And what's something that you feel like you kind of struggle with or falter the most? Not that it's, you know, not that it's negative, right? Just something you might not hit the nail on the head all the time, in your own concept around this, right? Also because if we're talking about any type of wellness, it's personal, right? It's relative to you and being better that next day, right? If you see someone next to you that's got $1 million in their bank account, that doesn't matter, right? It's you. You might be $10,000 in credit card debt. Take those steps to get that down. Draw out the right plan. Could be specifically financially, right? Could be any other aspect of your life, but it's all relative. Take those steps. But I was just going to say, right?
No, pop in there, but I think that's a good point too, right? That is comprehensive wellness, because it could be, someone's got $1 million in the bank account, right? But they're taking on stress from a physical standpoint. So if that person has a chronic illness, right, and has type 2 diabetes, that person is not healthy, right? And vice versa. You can run a 4-minute mile, right, and maybe you have student loan debt that has not been written off yet by the courts in Texas, right? And maybe that's the issue. So you're taking on stress, right? And everything just kind of results in this end product of stress. So what's your plan? What's your check-in to kind of, right, increase that, get you out of those stressor areas? But I know for me, kind of personally, right, I obviously my first, where I do best, right, is going to be physical, because I make sure that within my action plan, right, within my wellness plan, I'm going to be exercising. I'm going to have some type of movement, right, and intentional physical wellness, right, happening weekly, right? So I'm either going to be working out 3 to 5 times, be it strength training, some type of movement. I'm going on a walk, right, taking my daughter out. We're moving around, but then also my nutrition for the most part, right? And I think that this is kind of the base of health, the base of wellness is what you do the most, right, is going to kind of be the biggest representation of you. You don't have to do it all the time, right? But my nutrition is going to be appropriate most of the time. I'm going to move most of the time, right? And that's going to be what I'm the biggest byproduct of. And so I know that I'm best in my physical wellness, and I prioritize it, right? Because I know if I'm not working out, like I don't consider myself like an anxious or moody person. I don't know if anyone does, right? But if I don't work out, or like my wife will say, like, it's not even if I don't work out, right? It's like if I am supposed to work out and something comes up and I can't get that workout in, that's when I can probably be a moody person. That's when like the emotions can pop up. It's not like, oh, I was never gonna work out on Thursday, and then like if that happens, fine. I'm okay with that being built into my workouts, right? We phase ourselves, we phase our workouts. We know when they're supposed to be baked in. It's when I'm supposed to work out, and I can't get that workout. I'm probably the worst version of myself.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, point off of that, I feel like you've made me better in that physical capacity, I think. Obviously, your physique is incredible, and
Appreciate
whatever. You go give a look at his abs on Instagram.
That's going to be on our Valentine's Day post.
No, but it's real, because it's like maintaining that, right? You could say genetically, whatever, right? You've been lean for most of your life. I've never really been that lean. I've gotten there once. It's been hard as hell, but right, you eat well-rounded every single day. You're balanced. You have a couple drinks out. You do all these things, right? And like I feel like the person's ideal mindset towards what wellness is wouldn't think that those things are possible in that sense, right? Like we've gone out and we've had pizza, we've had our fair share of stuff, but I feel like you've improved me in my mindset of like, that balance needs to be there, but how can I just kind of not be on the extreme sides of like, I don't even know how to like explain what I'm trying to say, but like I feel like I've been way more aware of just like eating consistently healthier whole food. Like you do, I feel like, a better job of checking the types of foods that you're eating, doing the things like that for yourself. I feel like it's carried over to me a lot, the consciousness of the movement and the eating, right? Because I feel like, you know, I've taken a step back with some of the exercises, giving myself a break, just reading my body and seeing how my body feels. But when we were crushing it and going at it 5-6 days a week with workouts, it was just kind of screw it, disconnect, get the workout done. And every day I felt great mentally.
Yeah.
Right, I felt great. And obviously that's a task in and of itself, to manage that, of like, get that workout done, you feel great, mentally feel like crap, maybe the next morning, get that workout done, you feel great again. But yeah, I feel like it's pushed me to kind of live at a higher standard physically in that sense too, or at least start to approach to get there for myself.
And
right.
I know you'd ask too, right? Kind of where do I see myself probably the worst, like right of those dimensions, and it's probably right. And I don't know, right? Because I probably don't put enough attention there, but it's probably just the mental wellness aspect, in the sense of the fact that I think that my workouts, right, all these things feed into positivity, into my mental side. And as I mentioned, I don't think that I fluctuate in emotion. I don't think that I have that much anxiety, but I definitely don't put enough care there, right? So it's like, maybe I'm just not looking at myself deep enough, right? But that's probably a place where I can just spend a little more time kind of for myself. Do you think there's a place where you don't do a good job?
A place that I think I do a great job on everything. No, I think it could be maybe the mental, emotional, but letting certain things get to me where, like, if I feel like I've gone into my introverted shell, I can be difficult if someone, right, a family, right, my family wants to go out or whatever, or there needs to, or there's an event, right, to go to, but even just in the pursuit of this and doing this, just saying, why is that there? Work with myself. Let that kind of slowly go away, or be a thing that I can manage way better, right? And not be so much on that side of checking like my bedtime or checking this or checking that, you know, for myself.
Yeah, allowing
and just
yourself to have some
like
leeway there.
some mental balance of detaching a little bit from certain things, because I feel like those things need to be there to keep me in a great place.
Yeah, solid. I think that was cool perspectives kind of us and kind of what we go through.
Yeah.
I'm excited, right, to bring on some other people, right, kind of hear their perspectives, be it kind of where they're from, what kind of industries they work in, right, and kind of their wellness kind of battles there too. Where they're best, where they're worst. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the AWell Podcast. Tune in next time as we will dive deep into the first dimension of wellness and hopefully bring on our first guest.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Leave any questions or comments, right, on any of the videos, any of the pieces that you see anywhere, right, whether it's on our Instagram at 8well.life on Instagram. So check that out. Thanks for listening.
Appreciate you.